22nd January 2026. As usual, the members of the government are here to update you on key issues that the cabinet and the government would have agreed to in the national interests. This evening we are joined by the Minister of Public Admin and Artificial Intelligence, Honorable Dominic Smith. We are joined by the Minister of Homeland Security, Honorable Roger Alexander, and in the course of the press conference, we will be joined by the Minister of Energy and Energy Industries, Dr. Rudal Munilal. So as we begin this evening's press conference, I'd like to invite Minister Smith to speak to you this evening on some deliberations that have occurred at the Cabinet and some achievements or actually some projects under his ministry. So, Minister Smith.
Thank you, colleague. I want to say a pleasant good afternoon to members of the media, especially invited guests, and of course, the good citizens of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Today marks quite an historic day in nation building and progress for Trinidad and Tobago. Many of you would have seen some developments over the last couple of days of what can be described as a landmark achievement by the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago through the leadership of the government and of course the Honorable Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar SC. Trinidad and Tobago, and in particular the Ministry of Public Admin and Artificial Intelligence, proudly would like to announce a partnership with the global company OpenAI, the global leader in artificial intelligence research and of course deployment. This strategic collaboration marks a pivotal milestone in the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago's official policy framework, the positioning of Trinidad and Tobago as a regional partner in the integration of advanced artificial intelligence technologies into, importantly, the fabric of national development. This ministry was formed for this purpose, to advance the public sector, to advance the modernization of the public sector, and of course, to integrate as much as possible advanced technologies to promote and move Trinidad and Tobago into the future of technology. Through this partnership with OpenAI, we will join amongst the few countries in this initiative. OpenAI is globally recognized for its mission to ensure the advanced intelligence benefits to all of humanity, most notably through its creation of ChatGPT, which is familiar to most of us, a tool that has redefined productivity, which is very important, and problem solving worldwide. The Education for Countries initiative is designed to help nations build future-ready education systems by embedding artificial intelligence tools into schools, universities, and of course to personalize learning, reduce administrative burdens for educators, and equip, importantly from the public admin side, our workforce, with the essential skills required for a world increasingly shaped by artificial intelligence. Trinidad and Tobago, notably, is among a few selected to join this initiative. In fact, we are one of 6 countries globally in the entire world to join this program. Amongst those countries include, of course, ourselves, Estonia, Greece, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Slovakia, and the United Arab Emirates. Under the leadership of the Prime Minister, the government has prioritized, as you know, a people-centered digital approach and a people-centered digital shift. This partnership directly supports the ministry's mandate and focuses on 3 core pillars which remain the vision and the goal of the ministry. Digital services being pillar 1, smart and efficient government services being 2, and of course, the movement towards a fully realized digital nation. By introducing advanced capabilities, ChatGPT EDU And of course, the MPAI is ensuring that the nation's human capital development is prepared to thrive in the global digital economy. The partnership complements MPAI's ongoing technical collaborations with international bodies to ensure responsible and, of course, ethical AI adoptions. In collaboration with the United Nations Development Programme, the UNDP, and the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, we would like to also inform the public that MPAI is conducting a comprehensive assessment of the nation's readiness for artificial intelligence, leveraging UNESCO's Readiness Assessment Methodology, also termed RAM, and UNDP's AI Landscape Assessment, also fondly called ILA. The Ministry, through the Public Service Academy, is also currently executing a Data to Policy workshop, which started running on January 21st and will continue till January 23rd, 2026, with the support of the UNDP Digital AI and Innovation Hub, also called DIHub. This 3-day intensive training workshop equips senior public servants, officials, including the Deputy Permanent Secretaries and senior managers, with practical skills in integrating data and AI into policy development. What does this mean for Trinidad and Tobago? It means that we have not only been taking steps to advance national progress, we are not satisfied with being left on the sideline of the new digital era. We will be pioneers in the space. We will be participants in the space. And by these collaborations and through these multilateral engagements, we will be seen and continue to be seen as the leaders in technology, both in Trinidad and, as far as these partnerships go, in the Western Hemisphere. So I want to congratulate all the members who have been working hard from the Ministry of Public Admin and Artificial Intelligence. I want to ensure that the public is aware of the good progress that this new ministry is undertaking. I want to make the public servants aware of the usefulness and effectiveness and, of course, the modernization of the public service that will only redound to reduction of costs for the government and, by extension, benefits to every citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. Cost reduction, efficient use of resources, timely interventions, this is what this government has stood for. Our ministry, through the Ministry of Public Admin and AI, we are committed to this, and we are committed to using technology to the benefit of the citizen. So we want to thank you, of course, for your time, and we look forward to many more advancements as the weeks and months progress. I want to wish everyone as well, since I haven't seen you, a Happy New Year. God bless.
Thank you very much, Minister Smith, and let us congratulate you on delivering on the mandate of your ministry in just these few months to ensure Trinidad and Tobago can actually benefit from the technological revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to continue this evening by welcoming the Minister of Homeland Security, the Honorable Roger Alexander, to join us this evening as he speaks to critical issues of national security and safety.
Good afternoon, members of the media, the viewing and listening public. The Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago today approved the registration of all legible illegal immigrants in Trinidad and Tobago through the Immigration Registration Framework. This was done sometime in 2019 by the previous administration. However, it was only the Venezuelan nationals was required to register. We are presently asking all, this framework includes all illegal immigrants to be registered. On the last occasion this was done, it was done without accountability, intelligence, and a lack of strategy as it relates to the registration of persons. We know for a fact that a lot of persons came and was registered, some of them under fictitious names, address, and where they came from. This government intends to do things differently. It will incorporate a level of intelligence, accountability, and most of all, we will understand from every angle who we are dealing with because of the strategies we intend to put in place. Some persons would ask, what is the difference between 2019 and now with respect to this registration framework? It's not just, as I mentioned before, not just for the Venezuelan nationals, but for all immigrants, irrespective of your nationality. So it doesn't matter where you came from, what race, etc. The process is partly digital, and as a result of that, we are able to capture more. And it also demonstrates our ability with respect to modernization. We also intend to have a revenue generated from this registration. It requires a fee of $700 per person. That does not include children. On the last occasion, $5 million was spent by the last government with respect to the registration. On this occasion, we are looking at $1 million. The reason being, we are using all of government facilities to accommodate this project. For instance, we are looking at the Larry Gomes Stadium in Arima, Atabolem Stadium in Cova, Hainsey Crawford Stadium in Port of Spain, Dwight York Stadium, Tobago. So we have a very large area because we are unsure exactly how much migrants will come and register. It's basically a threefold process. The first process being that you are given the opportunity to register online. You'll register at migrantregistration.gov.tt. If you want me to repeat that, I will say it again. migrantregistration.gov.tt. That's the website you're looking at. After that, you will be called to an in-person registration interview. And then eventually you will receive your migration registration framework card. This project is a project under the Ministry of Homeland Security and the Ministry of Defense. Again, we look forward to everyone coming and register. But it is there to note that after the registration, if anybody is caught and you were not registered, it gives us an opportunity for instant deportation. Again, The process should start by next week, Friday. And the in-person registration would start after the carnival. All right? Again, we took this initiative because a lot of persons in and around Trinidad and Tobago are involved in crime and other type of activities. And we want to be able to know who lives here, where, so we'll know how to maneuver during investigations and otherwise. And it's also give the migrants an opportunity to work in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Alexander. As we continue with this evening's press conference, I'd like to invite the Minister of Energy, Honorable Dr. Rudal Munilal, to update us on some very critical matters within the energy sector. Dr. Munilal has made some great strides in recent weeks in production and also bringing new investment in the energy sector. Let us welcome Dr. Munilal, the Minister of Energy, this evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much, my colleague, the Honorable Nicholas Morris. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, good evening, and may I also take the opportunity to wish all members of the press and the national community a very happy, prosperous, peaceful, and productive 2026. At this time, it is my pleasure to update members of the press and the national community on a few of the matters that have occupied the attention of the Cabinet and the government at this time, related specifically to the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries. I'll begin by indicating that this is a very important day for us. A few moments ago, at the Diplomatic Center, the Honorable Prime Minister met with the families and the lone survivor involved in the horrible, horrific tragedy that took place 4 years ago, February 25th, I believe, in which divers lost their lives in a terrifying incident at the facilities owned by Paria Fuel Trading Company Limited. You'll recall that those divers, innocent men, were trapped inside a pipeline for several days, hoping, praying, believing that help will come, and it never did. 4 men died slow, painful, and terrifying deaths. Today, that incident was compounded by the callous inaction, paralysis of leadership, and a shocking absence of urgency by those who held then the reins of power. At that time, this country was governed by Keith Rowley, Mr. Stuart Young, and others occupying senior ministerial office, including Mrs. Penelope Beckles. Mr. Young indeed assumed the office of Prime Minister at some time. When decisive leadership was required, the nation instead witnessed decay and denial. In the aftermath of those events, public outrage was met not by compassion for the victims, but with a frantic effort to manage optics. A commission of inquiry was eventually established only after sustained national and international pressure forced the government's hand. At that time, the commission took place. Mr. Budram relived every agonizing moment of his ordeal before a traumatized nation. His testimony shocked Trinidad and Tobago to its core and exposed a level of institutional failure that will forever stain our history. While tens of millions of dollars were spent on lawyers and legal fees, enriching well-connected and well-known P&M eater food lawyers, Not one red cent was paid to Mr. Budram or the grieving families. Legal process became a convenient shield behind which moral responsibility was avoided. In the dying days of the last administration, Mr. Young suddenly discovered his conscience temporarily in what can only be described as a desperate act of political damage control. Mr. Stuart Young announced that Mr. Christopher Budram and each affected family would receive $1 million. They trumpeted that. But with so many promises under that administration, it was an ex-PNM promise that never materialized. No payments were made, no checks were issued, no relief was provided. The victims, indeed, were left abandoned with empty words. Today, a few moments ago, the Prime Minister rectified a public wrong. The Prime Minister led our government, and on behalf of our government presented ex gratia payments of $1 million to Mr. Christopher Budram, a payment of $1 million to Ms. Vanessa Kusi, the widow of the late Mr. Rishi Nagasa. A similar payment was also being made to the family of Mr. Faisal Kurban. Those payments have been made because there is no legal impediment to so doing. Ladies and gentlemen, this matter today was a very solemn matter in which members of the government were extremely eager to have completed. We wished we would have completed it earlier, but in these circumstances, several of those families had to engage in legal processes so that they can have the legal validity to accept the compensation, to accept this ex gratia payment. Today, the Prime Minister made this a promise that was realized. For us, it is not just one promise made and one promise kept again, but it is contributing to the families. Anyone with compassion, a heart, empathy would understand that these families have experienced terrible tragedies, but more than that, in the aftermath, they had been left abandoned by the state and therefore needed this type of relief and this type of support for their families and, in most cases, their young children. That was done today, and we will continue to give support today to all families as we continue. It is a process that is in motion, as we have, of course, 2 other families to meet and treat with. The second matter I wish to address involves the recent public notification that the government of Trinidad and Tobago, through the Honorable Prime Minister, had made a promise to the nation in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to remind members of the press that it was in the budget debate in 2024 for the fiscal 2025 that the Prime Minister, then opposition leader, in response in October 2024, indicated her commitment upon returning to office to terminate, discontinue, and facilitate the termination of the STO certification that has been used in this country to access for workers and small, medium-sized contractors and others to access work and contracts in the energy sector. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa indicated, and I just want to quote from her speech in that budget debate, I quote, "It can cost hundreds of thousands to become STO certified. Certification is given for 1 or 2 years, after which the businesses must be recertified. STO, through the Energy Chamber, is holding companies to ransom by having a monopoly on who can conduct business in the energy sector, using health, safety, and the environment as a strangling tool." Unquote. The then opposition leader, current Prime Minister, indicated that we will indeed revert to those codes that obtained prior to the introduction of STO. Today, I'd like to inform the national community to take note that the store forms no part of the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. Indeed, it came into being by some type of agreement, charter, between the Energy Chamber and several of the multinational energy companies and involving state enterprises. I can report today that after widespread consultation with the energy companies, a decision has been arrived at to terminate, to discontinue the store requirement and revert to the ISO codes and other relevant codes that obtained before as per the entity in the energy sector. They will revert to that. I can also indicate that all state enterprises involved in the energy sector have also taken decisions, respectively, to do away, terminate, and or discontinue the store process for entry into the sector, which we believe to have been unfair and to have enriched certain individuals and entities at the expense of keeping out small and medium-sized enterprises and new businesses from the sector. The third matter which I would just relate to is a matter that gives us some measure of pleasure to report. As some of you may be aware, it was August last year that a production sharing contract was arrived at with ExxonMobil for exploration in our ultra-deepwater block, Trinidad and Tobago Ultra-Deepwater Block 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we have moved ahead of schedule to present to ExxonMobil in December last their CEC from the EMA. That came 4 weeks ahead of schedule. Today, you may be aware that the vessel Amazon Warrior, the vessel that will undertake the seismic scientific exploration and collect the seismic data over the ultra-deepwater block, is in Trinidad and Tobago waters and will depart on Sunday from Chaguaramas to begin its work. They expect to be on the East Coast Marine area to conduct 3D seismic survey across the deepwater block that has been contracted with Exxon. These operations are expected to last between 4 to 5 months, and they have, of course, contracted the relevant international expert companies and vessel. It is important to note that this has happened again way ahead of schedule. We were looking at the first quarter. This is, of course, the first month of the year, so we are way ahead of schedule with the conduct of 3D seismic surveys in those areas. We are very optimistic that this will yield significant, if not incredible, results for Trinidad and Tobago. Those are the few issues I wish to raise at this time, and of course, we are free to entertain questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Munilal. We'd now like to open the floor to questions to the Minister of Energy as well as the Minister of Homeland Security. Unfortunately, the Minister of Public Administration and AI had to leave us for another pressing meeting, but the two ministers are available for your questions. So we begin.
What about the other two families of the divers who passed away? Why wouldn't they give us?
The other two families are currently engaged in the legal process to arrive at a legal personal representative. And as soon as that process is completed, as it was with the other families, we will meet and treat with them in a similar fashion. So we expect that to be done in short order.
Are you in contact with them?
Yes, we are in contact with the lawyers representing the various families, and at today's very short function, several of the attorneys were also present.
You spoke about the store matter. That leads us to the question about the energy conference that taking place in Trinidad next week. I think Is the government boycotting it? You know, and what are the reasons for that?
The government will not participate in the energy conference in Port of Spain. Um, you know, there are entities, I believe, I've seen who will participate, but the government and the state enterprise sector will not participate because we have had fundamental problems and issues with the structure, with the participation, with the organization, certainly with the store process. And it is something that we will look at in the coming days so that, to answer your question, the government will not participate.
And Minister Alexander, the illegal immigrants who are here now, is there anything preventing them from not being registered? You know, somebody comes to register, you know, and they wouldn't be able to get registration.
I'm not sure if I understand what you say.
For example, if they have a criminal record or something like that,
Right.
you know, would they still be, allowed to register?
It's on you. It will depend on the person, the individual, because if you have a criminal record here, there will be an issue. That is for sure, there will be an issue. We want persons to come to Trinidad, and if you come here with purpose, come with purpose and help us build. And you build yourself. We are not looking for persons who would add to the problems that we are seeing on the nation streets.
How long would the card be valid for?
1 year.
1 year.
Yeah, the expiration date will be on the 31st of December 2026.
Okay, and if someone has a work permit as in Trinidad, does he still have to register in that case, for example?
All persons should come and register. Right? We want to be able to account, not like the last time, when it was done in 2019. We want to have a genuine, underline those words, a genuine registration for our illegal immigrants.
Hi, Minister Shirlan Ramsubag, Trinidad Express. So you would have mentioned generating revenue with the $700 fee. For those registered, is there any requirement, because they'll be now able to work, right? Is there anything like, would they be required to now pay like taxes or contribute any other way to the economy of the country?
All indications, all we need for them to do is to come and register and be a good immigrant or visitor to Trinidad and Tobago. That's all we need.
Okay.
At this time.
And what are the requirements that they would need to register?
Name, address, any form of ID, identification. Yeah, that's important. We need some form of identification, not like the last time. We need some form of identification, your name and address. And if, at this time, where you're working.
All right, so you said that children won't have to pay the fee, right? Is it that they will now be able to, be accepted into schools?
Well, there are a lot of children already accepted into schools in Trinidad and Tobago as illegal immigrants. That's a thing going on here for a while.
So are you saying that once their parents are registered and they are registered, they would now be eligible to,
And that is what forms that accountability phase. It's important to have them registered so we can know exactly where they are, who they are. Yeah?
All right, and for some people, you hear stories about women who would have come and, they would have had their documents taken away and all of that. You hear the stories, right? I can't say, I don't know for sure, but you would have heard the stories. For such women, what is the alternative if they can't provide, or even other people? What if they can't provide ID as required?
Let me just chime in somewhat. Where in Trinidad and Tobago you can go now and get a work without ID? So you're telling me people in Trinidad and Tobago will be hiring you all now without knowing who you are? Then we would have done the same thing that we did the last time. Nearly everybody, foreign nationals, have an ID. When we did a registration at the detention center, everybody has an ID. The funny thing is, in some of those countries, you are asked to walk with a form of ID at all times. Yeah.
So if it's expired, you still accepting it?
Yeah, once we could see some photograph of something on it, we'll be able to treat it.
Okay.
Good evening, Akash Samaru, Guardian Media. Minister Alexander, how did you all arrive specifically at $700 for the fee?
We thought of it before, and when we look at how many processes are involved, on the last occasion we try our best, on this occasion we try our best to ease it up somewhat, but then look at it this way. We have to print paper, we have to give you a card. None of these things are free. So we had to offset some of the costs that we have incorporated.
You used the term revenue generating earlier, so not to make money, but to cover the cost.
To cover the cost, yeah.
Okay, I went on the website, migrantregistration.gov.tt, while you were talking, and it's up. I saw that the prerequisites would be birth records, passport details, national ID, country of origin, parents' information, spouse information if applicable, education information, employment history, vaccination records, and travel details into how you got into TNT.
So you see how much information we get?
Right, and if someone maybe doesn't have two of what I just listed out there, would that immediately disqualify them?
No, we will still try to verify the information. You see, we don't want people to be afraid to come, because they came through the side entrance or what we deem the back door. So we don't want persons to run away. We want persons to come and be registered.
Dr. Munilal, if I may.
Yes, sir.
So the Prime Minister this week said the Energy Chamber is weaponizing the Safe to Work certification or stove certification. She even went as far as saying that the Energy Chamber is self-serving, greedy, and have not acted in the best interest of citizens and the country. Is that something you agree with as well?
Well, first let me say that those statements were not just made recently by the Prime Minister. That was her position for several years now. As you may recall, this matter was in the manifesto of the United National Congress when we went to the election. We made a promise that if it is the will of God that we return to office, the Prime Minister indicated that we will terminate the STO, and she explained in great detail, not only in the Parliament but outside, the unfair nature of that and so on. Those persons, we believe, have in that way taken advantage of particularly small and medium-sized contractors and has created a barrier to entry. And we have said that before, it's not a new position, and therefore that will constitute the description as self-serving, greedy. What else you said? Three things. But that would constitute the description. Yeah.
Right. You mentioned you're not going to the energy conference next week. Are you going to India?
Yes, I am.
What are you hoping to achieve in India? Are you looking for investors for the refinery, maybe?
Well, there are several issues. As you will recall, of course, that upon coming into office, the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, within days of us entering office, paid a visit to Trinidad and Tobago in a highly publicized program. And we have always enjoyed a particular strong political, cultural, historical ties with that country. But outside of that, we have also had discussions with the Indian energy sector. Some of you may not know, but several companies from India have been working here before, and India Oil in particular had been operating and doing some work, consultancy and otherwise, in the former Petrotrin. In India, we have been invited. We are honored to be invited to participate at the India Energy Week in Goa from the next week, the 27th to the 30th, I believe. We have several meetings with companies in India and companies outside of India have been set for us to discuss matters involving, as you say, the refinery. We have received a report from the Refinery Restart Committee. We shared that with you. And a key issue there is, of course, the investment, the capital investment in the refinery. And we believe that we can speak to not just the Indian companies, but other companies participating. It's a massive event, as you would know, over 6,500 participants, 700 7,000, I believe, exhibitions and so on, and a cast of professional people there, and several of the leading companies of the world would be there. We will meet and treat with companies that do not operate in Trinidad. So that's a unique opportunity to discuss investments in the refinery, and of course in the upstream sector, where we desperately need significantly more investments, and some of the investments related to heritage. Heritage, as you know, has suffered over the years with infrastructure that has been dilapidated, infrastructure that has collapsed on itself and is in a state of disrepair. And we'll need to look at partnerships with energy companies to work with heritage to rehabilitate somewhat its infrastructure, and also to look at further opportunities for exploration near shore and offshore.
And just finally, before I pass it on, with Stowe now being removed, what will be the requirements for safety standards, to gauge safety standards to enter the energy industry now?
Well, it will revert to what obtained before, where various companies will have their own codes, particularly the ISO and so on, and other codes that are related. But a point was made in our meetings with energy companies over the last few months that several of the leading energy companies and service providers in this sector, they actually have codes and standards, sometimes above our local and national standards. And they will continue to police those standards and apply standards and codes to all the service contractors that come into their company and their sector. And we believe that that would help with some of the small, medium-sized contractors who may not have a lot of resources and capital and so on, but they can get entry to do work into the sector, and it will free it up so that we'll have greater participation by Trinidad and Tobago business. This is all in a bid to promote local content, to promote small-scale enterprises and businesses. Because, I mean, there are some times when businesses need store certification costing thousands and thousands of dollars, and the work that they are applying for may not be highly technical work in the industry. It might be, maintenance in some cases, other work that is purely not engineering and technical, and not offshore either. So that is something we have looked at, and it was a process. It took us a few months, but we are happy that we have reached this point where we have widespread agreement to discontinue and do away with that system. As I said before, it is no law, so you don't have to go to Parliament and do anything, or you don't have to make a law and do anything. It's just an agreement over the years, and we have been able to engage with the stakeholders and arrived at this position.
And coincidentally, you came and you gave an announcement about the unfortunate Paria diving tragedy.
Yes.
So they're asking, you all are absolutely comfortable that individual companies' safety standards will suffice in lieu of Stowe?
Well, again, I mean, I really don't want to, how should I say? I don't want to politicize that matter, but having said that, I mean, the tragedy occurred in February 2022, I believe. The store was in place then, so it didn't prevent that. That had to do with other issues that came up during the commission of inquiry, as governance issues, as workplace issues. So the industry itself would implement their own standards as they did before, their own codes as they did before. And we are convinced that once the main players, the main stakeholders, abide and police and supervise their codes, we will reduce the incidence of industrial accidents and certainly fatality. The onus is upon the stakeholder. So if you're dealing with an energy company, the onus is upon that company to ensure that when service contractors come on their compound, whether it is diving, it is providing grass cutting in some cases, or technical, scientific, engineering work and so on, that involves safety hazards. It's an industry that carry risk. It's a high-risk industry by definition. And the onus is upon the stakeholder, the energy company, to ensure that they observe the highest standards of safety, environmental protection, and so on. So the onus is again on the company, but we are the regulator. We are, in a sense, we are the energy policeman. Sorry to put it that way, but we are the energy policeman. So we will have to also work closely with all stakeholders to ensure that we continue along the lines so far to have at a minimum disruptions by industrial accidents.
Chancellor of Garden Media, Dr. Monilal, given that you all are the energy policeman, do you think that the government ought to, at least by now, step in and have some sort of a framework, legal framework for all these energy companies to work as it pertains to security, work within the Trinidad and Tobago, rather than leaving it up to the individual?
What do you mean by security?
Rather than leaving these, I would say, protocol up to the individual companies, have a standard set by the government, safety standard set by the government.
Well, as you know, we have law, the Occupational Health and Safety Act, that carries a very comprehensive and in some cases detailed outline for work processes and production workers and so on. And I'm happy to remind people that it was the UNC government that worked while in government and opposition to ensure that we passed health and safety legislation. So we do have comprehensive health and safety legislation in place with an amendment, I believe, in 2006. The onus, as again, is on government to ensure that the act is enforced. And that is what we are about, enforcing the existing law. If that is enforced, we have a national framework for health and safety. We already have one. Sometimes it is argued that the multinationals actually have, much more detailed and comprehensive systems. So I think it's a balance between the international players and the national legislation, and we will do well, and we will have ease of entry into the sector. You're reading a question somebody sent you?
No, reading
sorry.
That we saw.
I don't want to disturb you.
We saw something on TTT posting about the US, the fee, Mr. Alexander being...
US dollars.
The what?
The registration fee being $700 US.
TT posted it was 700 US. Want to clarify, it's TT, right?
No, it's TT. It's TT. 700 TT.
And as I have you there, and thank you, Minister, for returning, you mentioned that the $700 would be administrative costs and not necessarily a revenue generating exercise.
Yeah.
Prior to you speaking, the Minister, before you was talking of technology and using technology and these things. Why not have the entire process online to save the migrants, particularly the Venezuelan migrants, given that when they came here, they came under humanitarian crisis?
I like your answer. But when you're dealing with people, it's one thing to have you online. It's another thing to have you in person. What we would have learned from others who would have failed with the system, as I said before, the system there was no accountability. We want to have that level of accountability. Can you go to another man's land and do not document yourself? You see, so when you speak to that, it makes me feel that you can't just walk in on somebody's land and that's it, and do something on a piece of paper. While technology is great, there are other forms of technology we need to get involved in, especially when we're dealing with persons who we are not sure of.
Walk me through the registration process. You go online, you fill out the form and everything. The period between online and in-person interview, do you have an estimated time?
It should take about a month.
And within that month, you will obviously be liaising with Interpol.
Well, we live with several agencies to capture a true picture or identity of the persons who we are connecting with.
And do you have a general estimation of how many people you expect to register?
Well, because we did not invite one group of people, and we expect everybody to come, we are unsure, but we will extend the process to accommodate everybody.
And there's no data within the ministry of an estimation of how many people are in the country illegally?
Of course, we have something. I don't want to expand it too much to members of the public, but we have something. And what we are working with, as I said before, the last regime just had one kind of persons or persons available, which was the Venezuelan. But we have gone further. So while we would wait to accommodate how many Venezuelans are here illegally, but there are other groups of persons here who are here illegal.
And in response to my colleague, you mentioned $700 to cover the cost of printing and these things. How thick is that form that it would cost $700? What else would that $700 cover? Because I'm thinking again, many of these illegal immigrants.
Yes, sometimes I wonder, but let us not wonder today, right? So I will try to answer you without wondering. Here what's happening. We have persons who's working. We have things like meals and different things. Come on, man, my friend, you should know that. $700? How much for a newspaper?
$5 only.
Oh, okay.
Minister Smith, you mentioned AI and the increasing use of technology. One of the things with regards to modernization is the human resource often suffer in terms of job loss. What protection, if any, have you been discussing with regards to increasing AI and maintaining job security?
Thank you for the question. I think it's a reoccurring question, quite frankly, and it's something that obviously the public wants clarity on. But I think the position of the ministry and the government has always been technology should not replace persons. We need to augment the technology and obviously, have the human capital developed. And that has been the approach of the Ministry of Public Admin and Artificial Intelligence. In the presser, I would have detailed a number of human development initiatives, not only conducted by the government and through the ministry, but also through best practice partners. We've partnered with the UNDP, we've partnered with UNESCO, we've partnered with agencies that are aware and know the technology and also are the leaders in terms of the integration and implementation across the globe. So yes, there's always an area of concern, but we as Trinbagonians, we need to embrace change because this change is happening globally. We're not unique in terms of AI and how it will impact jobs. What we're trying to do as a government is to prepare all workers to be a part of that transformation. When they develop their skills, we retool, we upskill. This is how we develop our public servants. This is how we develop our citizenry, not only to be partakers in the local economy, but I dare say international economy as well.
My final question, a two-part question, one for you and one for Minister Alexander. For you, could you give us an update on the work-from-home policy that would have started under the last administration? And for Minister Alexander, is there a U.S. presence in terms of U.S. Marines still in the country or any form of U.S. presence outside of the diplomatic channels?
We're gonna go with first. I guess I will start. The work from home policy certainly is something that we've looked at. We haven't actively engaged in the process to date, but it's something that we have been looking at with various partners. We obviously need to also include several ministers in that mix. I've already started collaborating with the Minister of Labour. So the government is active in terms of its analysis of it. Once there's further feedback on that, we'll be happy to share with the public and, of course, the good media.
Let me answer the question posed to me. You know, there are a number of visitors here in Trinidad and Tobago as we speak, coming in for carnival and different cultural shows. So the question that you ask at this time, if you're asking me from a ministerial point of view where intelligence are important, I wouldn't be able to answer you. But there are a lot of persons. I saw one of my friends today. He's from Australia. He came here with his wife to Trinidad and Tobago to enjoy the carnival. So, and he's probably a military person. So we have a number of persons who are coming and going. And to speak about outside and inside, I cannot speak to that at this time.
U.S.
Yeah.
Marines, U.S. soldiers, U.S. military.
Yeah.
Leading up to the New Year, we saw them coming and giving training. So visiting schools. Is that still ongoing?
Well, as I said before, there are a number of persons here in terms of the training and development. We always have persons training persons here. We are thankful that they are able to come to our shores and share their experience with us and teach us things, and we love that. We wish it could happen every day, but it doesn't always possible. So they come and go. At this time, I cannot speak to whether they are here or not.
Joel Brown, TV6 News, Minister Alexander. Just wondering, do you have a time frame for the completion of this registration exercise? And then from that point, how soon, if the government deems it necessary for deportations, that would begin?
All right. Well, you know, the deportation process is one that incorporates the country concern and all of that. And it also have to deal with the Minister of Foreign Affairs and all of that. But we're looking at 3 weeks in Trinidad and 2 weeks in Tobago, basically. But if the need be, because of the amount of persons, no one will be turned away. So we'll try to accommodate as much persons as we could, even after the period has passed. But when we lock it off, that's it. If you are caught thereafter, then you would have been given the opportunity to come and register. Yeah?
Would that require communication between the government and other governments? Because you said it's not just about Venezuelans. We have persons not just from within the region, but far parts of the world who have come here as well that may fall into this category.
Of course. And let me tell you how strange it is. There's a particular country not too far from us, one of our friends, that they're already willing to bring persons. You know what I'm telling you? They are willing to bring persons. When I say persons who belong to their country, but they are here. They are willing to come across here to bring persons to ensure that the process is a good one.
And as you're taking questions, just on another matter, if you don't mind, the Senate resumes its debate of the bill for the zones of special operations. It's a matter of public interest.
Yes, yes.
And for some people, a bit of concern. If the government gets the required support among the independent senators, how soon would the exercise be ready, or that the relevant, be it the police and the military, be ready to execute any area that would be designated if the bill passes?
My friend Jule, you don't wait for rain to fall to put a roof, right? So, having said that, as we speak, we are preparing just in case. That all is well, we assume that all will be well, because the country, the people realize that, you know what, every time that this government bring forth something to treat with crime, it is opposed by many. Yeah, so we are looking forward for good support. Now, it's just one of the many initiatives that we intend to introduce to treat with crime. We mustn't just put our hands up and surrender, or do like the last regime and put white flags by everybody's door, because we would have surrendered to crime and the criminal element. We don't live like that here anymore.
And in part of that preparation, does that include possible areas that could be, if the bill passes, of course, and is enacted, possible areas to start with?
All right, let me say this. I saw something circulating on the social media. That is not from us, because there are procedures that I wouldn't discuss at this time. When you're thinking about putting together a zone of special operations, remember I went to Jamaica on the instructions of the Prime Minister, the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar, to look at the project that we was doing in terms of the special operations. I went, and up the day before yesterday, I was speaking to the Minister of National Security in Jamaica, Mr. Horace Chan. And we continue to dialogue every day, as much as possible, because when we get the opportunity to implement this, it must be done strategically. And let me just go further on this. You know, you were around a while, Jules. We would have done similar type projects as a police officer in the Laventille area, in the Edinburgh 500 area, in the Cedars area. So when persons are making this an issue now, it's just that either they're not interested in seeing progress for their country, seeing their children go to school without fear, or themselves going about their lawful business. There must be some crime element attached, but they are not putting their foot forward to assist. This is not just a police thing. This is not just a government thing. This is a whole of Trinidad and Tobago thing. where you must want to understand that, listen, at the end of the day, Jews, we'll all leave here, you know. And we must leave here a better place for our children and grandchildren so they could live in peace and harmony. But we must do something about it now because it's affecting us now.
And do you have a sense of, let's say, if all goes in the government's favor in that sense, a time frame to say, okay, well, if the bill passes, it's enacted, and you could start this zones issue at this particular time, or you're still waiting to see what happens in the Senate?
Well, we'll wait for what happens in the Senate, but the preparation has begun.
I have one question for the Energy Minister, if you don't mind, sir. You spoke about issues concerning upstream activity. Could you give a sense of the state of play right now in terms of the issue of local natural gas supplies from, let's say, the upstream companies to NGC, and a sense of the forecast, at least, let's say, for the first half of this year, for the supply to plants in Point Lisas, the downstream plants, as well as Atlantic LNG?
Well, first let me say I haven't worked with the report, but we do have a natural gas report that is not outdated, and I can try and make that available, at least the findings available for you. But I don't want to guess the findings now because I don't have it before me. But we have reports on our status as it relates to natural gas, as it relates to oil production as well. We also have reports, and as I think the country is aware, that we are taking great steps now with the upstream players to ensure that we expand exploration and production.
We have 3 journalists who have not asked questions. Given the time, I would like to turn the mic over to them. So I think Sunil, and then we'll go to the other 2.
Sure. Good evening. Sunil Lala, TDT News. Minister Alexander, you on the migrant Venezuelan, the migrant registration process. You've designated several stadiums and so on. Does the ministry have an idea of how much of an influx of people, or how much migrants are there possibly to register for this?
To answer your question, and that's why we... Oh, sorry. Yeah, again, to answer your question, and this is why we choose those particular area, an area of where it can accommodate a lot of persons if they need be. And again, we thought of it in its entirety, and because it is free of charge, we are able to put together systems in it that would have cost us before. So those areas, football fields and all of that, they can accommodate a lot of persons. So we anticipate whoever comes, we'll be able to treat with them.
Just for clarification, children under the age of 12?
Yeah, well, again, you know, the parents come and register the children. Once the children are of age where they cannot register for themselves, they should come. They need to accompany their parents, especially young persons.
What age is that? Yeah, awesome.
What's the cut-off age? Well, we look at to work with your parents. You must be over 18. You know that?
And just finally for me, Mr. Morris, I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer, but I've gotten some off-the-record confirmation from media colleagues. They've gotten off-the-record confirmation that there's moves to demonetize the 5-cent coin. It's been circulating on social media. I know the Minister of Finance is not here, the Minister in the Ministry of Finance is not here, but any confirmation or...
That would be a question that you have to pose to the Minister of Finance, as you rightfully said. So I will not be able to answer on that.
And he is not here.
Again, that's a question you pose to the Minister of Finance, and he, through the channels, and he will get back to you on that. So we go.
A couple of questions. Ciudad Prasad, Talk City 91.1 FM, Minister of Energy. The gas price was predicated at $4.25 per MMBTU. In December, it dipped to 3.76 US dollars, and currently, over the last 2 or 3 days, it has gone up to 5.045 above the price predicated. Would you care to comment on that trend?
Well, we monitor the price of gas and the price of oil every morning. We smile. As the Prime Minister said, you know, the skies are blue and the sun is out. So we welcome the news today, over the last couple of days, as you indicated, that will have some economic consequences for us. But again, as I said to another reporter, prices are volatile, they are uncertain, and you could be very happy today, and tomorrow the situation would change. It depends so much on the market conditions and external factors to production, as well as you know, global geopolitical issues and so on. So at this stage, we are just, crossing our fingers, and we hope that it will remain at that level for a considerable amount of time. But we know the history of pricing.
Yeah, cyclical, if you may. In terms of STO, does any SEO, any institution, government institution, offer any type of certification courses that would fulfill the requirements, ISO or other international standard for working in the energy sector?
I can tell you that in the last administration of Mrs. Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, in the period 2010 to 2015, at that time, and in that first administration of Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar, we had worked very hard. I think, the late Minister Fazal Karim, I believe, had worked very hard with the NTA and the NESC to ensure that they had a certain level of certification for entry to the energy sector. And it's something that we may want to look at now to revive. But after a period of 10 years, I'm so instructed that a lot of those programs have just been able to disappear from the scene, and there was no further investment in those institutions to continue or intensify programs for entry-level contractors. But it's something certainly we could look at.
The Jerome Lynch Commission of Inquiry into the death of the divers recommended corporate manslaughter charges be laid. I believe that might be engaging the attention of the court. Could you provide a status?
Well, as you say, if matters are before the court, I prefer not to comment too much, but to let you know that I know for a fact of the OSHA matters, and we will not, discuss that in the public domain, because it's a matter where I believe they are still dealing with pleadings and so on. The company involved in that, the specific service provider, and the lawyers of the deceased, and in one case the survivor, they are engaged in some discussions with the pariah trading involving the matters of insurance and so on. And those discussions are ongoing. And again, because they are ongoing and engaging the attorneys, I prefer not to comment too much on that.
Well, that would be separate to the criminal.
It would be separate, yes. But as you also aware, see that we do not have that, the framework for corporate manslaughter, the criminalization. And it is something that, again, we spoke about many years ago, and it's something we may look at. So at this stage, we are keeping our eyes on the matters regarding the offenses under the OSHA, and of course for further assistance in this horrible situation for the families arising from continuing dialogue and engagement with the main players.
In another court-related matter involving companies in the energy sector, Justice Devendra Rupnarayan in the High Court would have ruled against the purchase of shares by Proman. That would be the Clico and CLF shares. The appeal court, the matter was appealed. The appeal court further to upholding the ruling of Justice Rampasad, basically ruling that the transaction should be reversed. Also said it was a fraudulent transaction. Proman would have indicated its intention to appeal to the Privy Council, which it never did. All records show that no appeal was made. No application was made for any appeal. We have had the Attorney General,
just repeat that last part, please.
There's no indication that the matter was actually appealed to the Privy Council. Sure. Nothing on record. I have checked as well.
Sure.
And that might be statute barred now from the appeal court. So it means that the appeal court ruling should stand and be executed. We have had a settlement, though, announced, if not formally, it has been reported in the media with a settlement with Proman, actual sale settlement, where the shares would remain with Proman, whereas the court would have ordered that the shares be returned to CLICO and CL, and the dividends, dividend payment as well to be returned to CLICO and CL, and the money that was paid to CLICO and CL be returned to Proman in terms of that reversal. Now, the dividend from calculations appear to be far greater than the purported or reported sale value of the asset. Would you care to comment?
No. The answer is, would I care to comment? There's a question.
I would beg your indulgence to comment on that, yes.
No, I would not care to comment, but I'll tell you...
as a nationalist, you see that it's in public interest.
Using a cricketing analogy, we always respect the functions of other ministers. We respect our cabinet colleagues, and this really, although it involves an energy company by definition, it's not really an energy matter that way for us in terms of an operational matter. It's a matter of legal nature involving an ongoing matter that has been there before us for several years now. The Attorney General has spoken to that matter, and I believe that, you know, to comment on that will be really now to intrude upon the ambit of the Honorable Attorney General. So I would leave those matters for the Attorney General to comment on. Suffice it to say that from our perspective, we are very elated that that a settlement has been reached on this, you know, drawn-out matter. I'm not yet in agreement with you. I haven't seen the documents yet concerning the Privy Council status, as you indicated. But I mean, I don't doubt you. But I need to see that. So we are happy that a settlement has been reached, but it's really a legal issue that I prefer the Attorney General would reflect on at an appropriate time with members of the press.
In terms of, one final one quickly. In terms of the status of the immigrants, regularizing the status of the immigrants, when they are regularized, has the cabinet in any form or fashion had any discussion with respect to the payment of NIS for those who are working?
Thank you for the question. That part of we haven't really discussed that part of it just yet, because we wanted to see first. We're taking it step by step to see who comes, yeah, how many come, how many might be detained after, because if you don't come, as I said before, and you are met in the streets and you do not have your card, then you would be arrested. So we want to see all of that before we determine the other intricacies that you're talking about there. If that's okay with you.
Good evening. Tobago Channel 5. A question from our newsroom for Minister Alexander. Based on your knowledge, are there any areas in Tobago that can possibly be a zone of special operation?
Listen, we love Tobago, you know. We love Tobago. So nothing has been thought of just yet. And we will depend on the persons in Tobago to show us some stats, and then that will determine whether we will have something in Tobago or not.
Oh, so there's no consultation yet? Nothing has happened?
Well, when I say no consultation, yeah, no on the zones of special operations just yet in Tobago. All right?
I know Minister Zaku is not here, but just by chance, any date on when the Blue Wave family might get to Tobago or begin operations?
Again, I'd like to leave that to the Minister of Transport as well as the evening Minister of Works, who had a big part to play in that to ask. Before I wrap up, I'll give two more questions. One alone to Guardian Media and one to Pryor. So because it's 7 o'clock, so we give Akash, you and Jensen decide which one, and one to Pryor.
We had to go to supper,
and no party and be one each.
Guardian Media is two entities. Guardian Newspaper and CNC3.
One Guardian Media, then go to Pryor.
As you were talking about this also legislation yesterday in the Senate, your cabinet colleague, Defense Minister Wayne Sturge, would have said that targeting certain constitutional rights is a small price to pay if you're getting AK-47s and Galils off the street. Now, I wanted to get your view on that, if you agree with him. And we also got a comment from the opposition leader today who said that public safety and people's rights need to go hand in hand. So she didn't agree with that at all.
She didn't agree with it?
Yeah, but the thoughts on what Minister Sturge would have said in terms of...
Well, as I said before, you know, the word opposition means to oppose, I guess. So we expected that from that statement from the goodly lady. Anything you do, as a police officer, we kept roadblock. And when you keep a roadblock, somebody feel that they are inconvenienced in some way and feel that their rights were infringed and all of that. So Mr. Sturge is quite right in his statement. In order sometimes for you to go so deep, you need sometimes to interfere with persons in a diplomatic kind of way. And let me just draw reference to this. Most of the countries that I was looking at in terms of research that took a particular stand against crime, a very hard approach to crime. And at times it seems like they would have even lost some of their constitutional rights. You know, they are now reaping the rewards of peace and things in their own country. Underline the word El Salvador.
All right, so last question to Prior. So thanks.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up to one of the questions that I asked Minister Alexander about the if you have this registration for illegal migrants, if it is someone is a legal migrant, meaning he has a work permit like expat or something, you know, does he still have to register in this process?
No, that's why we said illegal.
So he's illegal.
That's why we use the word illegal.
Okay, just making that clear.
Yeah, so I wanted to make that clear too. Illegal. All right?
Well,
thank you.
Thank you very much, members of the media. Thank you for joining us, especially our friends from Tobago. It's a pleasure to have you all. Again, it's been a great press conference. The Minister of Energy telling you how he's revitalizing the energy sector. Minister Smith on strengthening our place in the digital world. And Minister Alexander on keeping the safety and security of our country going. So thank you very much, members of the media. God bless you all.
This is TTT. Live for local. Carnival is more than a season. It's who we are. It's rhythm, color, history, and pure vibes from start to finish. And this Carnival, TTT, in partnership with the National Carnival Commission, is bringing you all the major moments live and full of energy. We kick things off with the youths of Steel at Junior Panorama. Then it's Pan Power all the way at Panorama, where the music hits hard and the passion runs dry. Celebrate the future of Calypso at the Junior Calypso Monarch and witness the lyrical mastery at Calypso Fiesta. Then step back into history with the reenactment of the Cambile riots. Don't miss the creativity and